art did not just provide a very good escape for the politician artist, it was also a very good protection, a gesture to tell the court, in particular those unfriendly politicians, wanted to take them down or take them out, and a general image to build so that the empress could rest assured that these guys are not interested in partisan politics to do something suspicious. Instead, these guys are the party guys who obviously have some talents to create some beautiful arts when they're really drunk. In fact, the best private properties of secondary personal residence in China were pretty much started by such bureaucrat artists. My ancestor on my mother's side was a very, back then at the time, well-connected poet and calligraphy artist and painter among 2,000 some intellectuals across the south and the north of China. He made it to the cabinet minister level within the early part of Manchurian Empire, and his son became the most influential Han ethnic court politicians, maintained a very high personal relationship with the emperor himself, and because of that, they were able to have built a very nice residence or secondary residence which housed lots of very precious artistic collections. How did they do that? Well, they invited lots of fellow bureaucrat artists and to entertain them in this private residence with gardens, with houses where they got high with alcohols, which became so inspirational, and lots of artworks were produced there and stayed there. In fact, the emperor himself, Shunzhi, also added to their collections was the artwork of the emperor himself. So now we know the so-called Chinese cultural elite arts in practical function provided escape and the political protection for their careers. And it certainly would be nice when you retire and you have something else to retire to. And that certainly was the case of the said ancestor on my mother's side. And they became very, very powerful politicians. In the meantime, they made their names in the Chinese art history. Even as of today, from time to time, the auction houses would service up with, artworks from one of my ancestors on my mother's side. From then to now, what happened? Well, first of all, the traditional sense of intellectual, they're no longer in the contemporary China. This was because at the downfall of the Manchurian Empire, China embarked on a process of modernization, which was pretty much westernization. The education system changed. Instead to educate people with the wisdom to learn from the history, to learn the philosophy, the literature, kids today, and actually from 110 years ago, start to learn very specialized knowledge. And then later on, the higher education level you go to, from master degree to PhD degree, the more specialized you become. You become the subject matter expert in a well-defined but narrowly defined scope of certain knowledge. In the old days, the traditional Chinese education system rolled out their products who later passed 3 levels or 2 levels of entrance examination of credentials and became the court politicians. These guys, from where they were sent to on assignments, they would have to lead engineering projects in the time of natural disaster, of floods or droughts. They have to fix it and deliver the results. In the times of domestic riots or the foreign invasions, the officers would have to lead the military through the war games and to restore peace back into the region fell under their own jurisdiction. So instead of having any specialization, these guys were supposed to demonstrate their leadership and deliver very effectively full results, or they lose their jobs. They did not have any military training or technical training. They were just some civil officers, but they performed all such duties. Some of them actually made their name in the Chinese history. So instead of having the generalized knowledge and wisdom, today people are very specialized. By the same token, the Chinese artists today graduated from the Chinese art academic institutions of the westernized training programs. They were trained with the techniques, this and that, very specialized. Some in oil painting as the medium, others maybe sculptures. This, in the traditional view of the Chinese cultural elite arts, would be considered as artistic technicians. This is because in the traditional Chinese visual arts, it is on the cultural level, it is emerged art of multiple formats rather than specifically one technically defined scope of specific art medium-based techniques. This is the very reason we do not believe the traditional sense of a Chinese cultural elite arts could be further developed in a contemporary Chinese society.